Defense Minister Rajnath Singh meeting with air warriors in Bhuj in Gujarat today made it clear that Operation Sindoor is not over. In fact, he went on to say कि Operation Sindoor to trailer hai, picture abhi baki hai. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. Our focus today continues to be on the geopolitical and military ramifications of Operation Sindoor, India's military triumph and the 23 minutes that decimated Pakistan's air bases, forcing the Pakistan Director General of Military Operations to dial India and ask for a halt in hostilities. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh today made it clear that that halt is only a halt and not a ceasefire. In fact, he categorically repeated the Prime Minister's words that Operation Sindoor is far from over. He went on to say that Sindoor was a trailer and the full picture is still awaited. Picture abhi baki hai. These meetings between the Prime Minister and troops, the Defense Minister and troops come even as across the border in Pakistan, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister was found lying. He was actually found lying. This as Shehbaz Sharif tried to do a Prime Minister Modi and failed. You can see the contrast in those two pictures. Shehbaz Sharif addressed troops in an open field because he did not want to reveal damage to the air bases in Pakistan. And Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar held up a newspaper which he quoted, and that story was never published in that newspaper. It was found to be fake. He was in fact fact-checked by his own media. Meanwhile, here at home, the government is getting ready for some cross-party messaging on the world stage. Multi-party members of parliament groups are going to be assembled and they will be deployed to take India's message far and wide. This as Donald Trump seems to step back just a little bit, but not enough. He continues to needle and provoke. I want to introduce our distinguished guests on the program today as we continue to look at the geopolitical, the military, and the diplomatic ramifications of all that has happened. Joining me is General Satish Dua. He's, of course, the general who led the surgical strikes after the terror attack on an army camp in Uri. Welcome to the program, sir. Also joining me is Dr. Shalini Chawla, whose area of expertise is, in fact, air warfare, which has been deployed to such effective use by the armed forces in Operation Sindoor. And veteran diplomat Ambassador Veena Sikri also joins us. Namaskar and good to see you, ma'am. I want to start by playing out what the defense minister said as he met troops. He said Operation Sindoor is only a trailer. It's not over. Picture abhi baki hai. Listen it.
ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल की ताकत को तो पाकिस्तान ने खुद स्वीकार कर लिया है। हमारे देश में एक कहावत काफी पुरानी है और वह है दिन में तारे दिखना। मगर भारत में बनी ब्रह्मोस मिसाइल ने पाकिस्तान को रात के अंधेरे में दिन का उजाला दिखा दिया है। रात के अंधेरे में दिन का उजाला दिखा दिया है। साथियों, ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने यह स्पष्ट संदेश दे दिया है कि हमने शांति के लिए जितना अपना दिल खोल कर रखा है, शांति को नष्ट करने वालों के विरुद्ध उतना ही अपना हाथ भी खोल कर रखा है। साथियों, एक और बात मैं यहां साफ कहना चाहूंगा कि ऑपरेशन सिंदूर अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ है। जो कुछ भी हुआ है वह सिर्फ एक ट्रेलर मात्र था। अब जब भी सही समय आएगा तो हम पूरी पिक्चर भी दुनिया को दिखाएंगे।
Right. Before we get opening comments from Ambassador Sikri, General Dua and Dr. Shalini Chawla, on a humorous note, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister was in fact caught lying in Pakistan's National Assembly. He read from a newspaper an article that never existed calling the Pakistan Air Force the king of the skies. Take a look.
Obviously, हजम नहीं हुआ। उसके बाद डिप्लोमेटिक, ये मैं नहीं कह रहा, ये टेलीग्राफ क्या लिखता है? Pakistan Air Force is undisputed king of the skies. Alhamdulillah.
Now, this was, of course, rather hilarious. And to be fair to the Pakistan media, for once, they did fact check the Deputy Prime Minister and pointed out that what he was reading was absolutely fake. Let's get straight to it. Ambassador Veena Sikri, I'll start with you. Donald Trump, in the last few days, has continued to needle and provoke. He finally seemed to step back just a little by saying, all right, I didn't mediate, but I certainly helped. That was his 6th public comment on the issue. So of course, diplomacy has leveraged the military gains, the very distinct military gains in the battlefield. But from a geopolitical lens, how do you look at the situation, and why do you think the American president is doing this? And do you think we should just ignore him, or does he need to be countered more strongly than he has been?
Look, first of all, I think the fundamental basis for the Indo-US relationship continues to exist, and it will continue to exist. I think the trade talks are going on. Our minister is going there. All that is on. I think, frankly, that, President Trump, when he was still campaigning, he had spoken about his great peacemaking powers and spoken about ending Ukraine-Russia in 48 hours and ending Israel-Hamas in 1 week. None of this happened. And so maybe, when Pakistan went running to them, and this is something we must really point out to, that what happened on the 10th of May, early morning, after India's attack on the Air Force bases, was that Pakistan went running to USA. Just a carbon copy of what happened in 1999 in Kargil, when Nawaz Sharif went running to Bill Clinton. This was just a carbon copy of that. So I think that then he got the opportunity to get into the act, and he spoke about, and of course, 1,000-year dispute and all that kind of stuff, which, is again totally incorrect. So he, then started saying, but as you quite rightly have pointed out, he said that he helped. And what he helped is between him and Pakistan. We know nothing about it. All we know is that the DGMO of Pakistan called our DGMO, and after they were able to have the talk at about 3:30 in the afternoon, they agreed to have not a ceasefire, not a Yudh Viram, but as our Prime Minister called it, स्थगित किया गया है. Operation Sindoor still continues to exist. And we are going to have the perpetual, care and deterrence and watchfulness on this subject, because certainly, this act of terror was unbelievably absolutely unacceptable. And I also think that the view of the world community has to be called up, because IMF is giving a loan to Pakistan as if it's a reward for Pahalgam. It's absolutely unacceptable that they've given $2 billion tranche to Pakistan. And do you know what they've done with it? The first bit of it has gone to the terrorists themselves. Jaish-e-Mohammed Masood Azhar lost some 14 people, 10 family members, and 4 kids, and he's getting 14 crores. Where is this going from? Certainly not from Pakistan's own bounty budget, which doesn't exist, but it's going from this IMF tranche. So this is absolutely unbelievable that such a thing should happen. The IMF's credibility is at an all-time low on this subject, I would say, because, this can't go on like this. So we have to call this out. And we've been absolutely correct in saying that we are capable of defending ourselves. And I think that what has been very much on display is India's skills, the Akash Tea system, the way in which our air defense system, our missile system, it's been absolutely marvelous. And on the other hand, the Chinese aid, whatever they've been giving to Pakistan, has been shown up in a very poor light. And don't forget that on the 10th of May, after the success of our attacks on the Air Force bases, that is when Wang Yi called Ajit Doval, and he actually condemned the Pahalgam terrorist attack for the first time. Before that, they never used the word condemn. And, they just been sort of wishy-washing about the whole thing. And that time is when they realized the superiority, and that is when China comes in. So I think, all in all, I think our Prime Minister's statement, terror and talks can never go together, terror and trade can never go together, and blood and water cannot flow together. So the IWT, Indus Waters Treaty, will remain in abeyance. There will be no talk with Pakistan except on ending terror and on getting POJK back. And Jammu and Kashmir is no longer on the global agenda. This is a very important point that we have to get across to the global community, that after 5th of August 2019, Jammu and Kashmir is no longer on the global agenda.
Can I, with your permission, just play out the latest Trump statement, get a quick comment from you on it, and then we'll open it up and go to General Dua and to Dr. Shalini Chawla. This is Trump's latest statement. It seemed like a step back, but not fully. Take a look.
I don't want to say I did, but I sure as hell helped settle the problem between Pakistan and India last week, which was getting more and more hostile. And all of a sudden you'll start seeing missiles of a different type. And we got it settled. I hope I don't walk out of here and 2 days later find out that it's not settled, but I think it is settled. And we talked to them about trade. Let's do trade instead of do war. And Pakistan was very happy with that, and India was very happy with that, and I think they're on the way. They have been fighting for about 1,000 years, in all fairness. So I said, I could settle that up. I can settle anything. Let me settle it up. Let's get them all together. How long have you been fighting? About 1,000 years. Oh, that's a lot. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about settling. That's a tough one. They've been fighting for a long time. But we got that settled. Everybody was very happy, I'll tell you. That looked like it was really going to be escalating out of control. But with
Right. So, Ambassador Sikri, to you first, because you said Kashmir, it's off the global agenda. But the more Trump talks about this, the more Pakistan holds on to it in the hope that, okay, maybe they've gone back to being able to internationalize it. Of course, India will have none of it. My question to you very directly is, at this moment, should India not choose to not get provoked by Trump, or does it need a higher profile of rebuttal than the MEA spokesperson? Does a political statement need to be made? What do you think?
Well, I think on this, I don't think anything is going to happen in the public domain on this, very clearly. What is happening behind the scenes, the exchange of messages, the talks, I'm not privy to that, so I will not refer to it. But I think that, we are not going to have any public rebuttal on this question. But the talks, the program of interaction, the program of continuation of the strengthening of the bilateral relationship is continuing. So, I mean, all these things about 1,000 years and so on, anybody would tell you that this is not true. And he is, as you say, taking a little step back. And it is very true that Pakistan went begging to him, as happened in earlier 1999. And Pakistan can go whatever they like. But our position is not going to change. I think our Prime Minister made that very clear. And we are going to be able to carry out the position that we have maintained within India, with Pakistan, and on the global stage. There is going to be no change at all. And I think this very fact that after 2019, how things have changed, we've got to, hammer this again and again to everybody. And it doesn't matter where or when, but we have to do it, even in every bilateral talk we have, so that people take this off their talking points. They should not be in anybody's talking
Absolutely.
point in bilateral discussions. And we can do it. I'm sure we can do it, and we should do it.
Let me bring in General Dua and Dr. Shalini Chawla. General Dua, I think a lot has been said, not just by Indian military veterans, but now by experts across the globe. Tom Cooper, John Spencer, both of them have spoken to this platform, among others, about a decisive victory by India's armed forces. And that those military gains provide a leverage to our diplomats as well. But the one thing that hasn't been spoken about enough is China as the ghost in the battlefield. And the one big lesson, I think, from this entire military gain is how made in India beat made in China. Because Pakistan's weaponry was entirely dependent and supplied to them by China. How do you look today at where we stand, not just as a general who led the surgical strikes in 2016, but also as somebody who's been the co-commander in the Kashmir Valley, where encounters and anti-terror encounters are back in a big way?
Thank you, Barkha. Can I just take 10 seconds to add on to the earlier discussion that
Sure.
Mrs. Sikri did? Two things came to my mind when you played out that clip. Firstly, 1,000 years. For God's sake, Pakistan was not there 80 years ago. So I mean,
Correct.
he said that earlier. They've been at it for centuries.
Yeah.
I mean, so clearly, it's a one-off statement, not a considered state policy. We know President Trump is given to making such statements. I'll leave it at that. Rest, she's already Mrs. Sikri spoken very well of that. Also, the fact that I read a statement today in the news that his former NSA Bolton has said that President Trump is saying all this because he wants a Nobel Prize like Obama did and things like that. So, and the kind of things Veena also said, that he said, I'll stop these wars, I'll stop the wars. And so anyway, we'll leave it at that. Coming to your question to me. Let me start by, normally people start with a disclaimer. I'm going to start with a disclaimer. I, as you are aware, used to talk a lot about inter-services synergy and integration. I was almost a skeptic of the fact that our air defense would not be able to sort of be applied in synergy in an integrated manner unless we have those, structures in place. I was also a skeptic of some of our made in India platforms. I am happy to be proven wrong on both counts. The kind of synergy the air defense grid has shown, led by the Air Force, totally. That is, it's more of an Air Force thing, coordination. It was amazing. Their target designation, all that was done, and the targets, the systems were so effective. Akash Tir, later BrahMos for different purpose. It was an excellent show. Like you, what I only heard John Spencer. I heard him on NDTV, and he said that he's a counter-terrorism specialist, as you know, and he writes on urban warfare. I mean, you interviewed him.
Yeah, yeah.
The anchor asked him a question. Do you find any parallels? Can you point out a parallel that in 4 days of strikes and air defense and all that, in 4 days, we've achieved our aim militarily? I mean, there were other diplomatic measures which are very harsh and continue. Yeah. And he says, I cannot think of another parallel like this. Israel has gone on for such a long time, Russia, Ukraine, and ISPO. He says, I have never seen such brilliant, bold plans executed brilliantly. So that and all, like we said, Indian systems, it really fills my heart with pride, as it should for every Indian. But as a military man, one feels very happy. Now about China. China. Yes, China is another angle. Now, you yourself pointed out when Wang Yi called and then condemned terrorism, it happened much later. Condemned the Pahalgam attack. To my mind, Chinese platforms have not done as well as they always speak of, and Pakistan banked on it. It may not be totally Chinese products, but Chinese stuff has not done as well. So that's one point in our favor. Secondly, a lot of people talk about the fact that will China take advantage of this between India and Pakistan, or try to use Pakistan? To my mind, China wants to be the next superpower. I mean, it wants to replace US as the number one superpower. I don't think China can hang on to the coattails of a rogue nation to teach India a lesson. Well, they will continue to support them and things like that, but they are not going to use this to sort of launch an attack or do something different, something bigger. That's my take. They will continue to support Pakistan. That will continue to happen. And I think militarily, we are very capable, and I'm ending with this, we are capable of defending our borders against both neighbors simultaneously, because even if they have some better technology, even that seems to be questionable now, but let's say they have better technology. They have, okay. But our combat experience counts for a lot. And China actually does not possess combat experience now.
I will bring that question back to Ambassador Sikri in just a moment, but let me get in Dr. Shalini Chawla. Rajnath Singh referenced the BrahMos today. I think after Yogi Adityanath, it was the first official sort of reference to the fact that the BrahMos was used. We already know experts talking about Akash. I think if there's anything to take away from this, it is how well, as General Dua also pointed out, the Made in India systems have done, with some supplementing from, Israel supplied weaponry, Russia supplied weaponry. How do you look at the big takeaways as of now from Op Sindoor, Shalini?
So thank you, Barkha. Yes, you are absolutely right. Made in India has been our thing here, and BrahMos and our air defense system, Akash, obviously combined with the S-400s, we have done remarkably well. And, General Dua has talked about it in detail. So what I basically take 2 points here, apart from what has been said about our performance, our precision, the kind of weapons which was used, intelligence which was used, it's a combination. But one is, I think, 3 factors. One is, I think, the synergy, the politico-military synergy was quite phenomenal in the operation, which we have not seen in the past. So this time we saw that synergy. We saw clearly military's dominating role there. We saw politics, leadership and military being completely aligned along with our, diplomatic dimension. So there was a lot of these integration. Yes, in defense integration was there, but then we had integration of this aspect. Second part, which I feel was very critical here, that what came out of this operation was the strategic imbalance. What happened in Pakistan with our operation and our strikes, whole of Pakistan was shaken up. We from Karachi, POK, Islamabad, everything there was a complete chaos on the 10th, and that's why they went running to the Americans. Whereas in India, what we saw, that there was this disturbance concentrated to a limited sector, and yes, Delhi. So that is definitely there. So I think this is going to lead to that realization in Pakistan that that imbalance need to be countered by them. Third factor, which I feel, which was very critical, and I'm sure you have talked about it in your previous show maybe, that we definitely managed to counter very strongly the nuclear bluff of Pakistan. The whole positioning which it had created for very long, and using that nuclear threat in every crisis. Even when they announced that they have nuclear weapon, which was in 1987, which was announced to our veteran journalist Kuldeep Nair by AQ Khan, was during Operation Brass Tag. And then we have Parakram, and we have had crisis where it has talked about it, and it has talked about a very low nuclear threshold. And Barkha, if you remember, after the Pahalgam massacre, when we were talking about retaliation, there were these talks by multiple leaders who were giving interviews saying that, we have nuclear weapons, and if we are not there, then the world doesn't need to stay. So that threat has been used. But then we definitely managed to counter it very well, and then establish that clear doctrine that this is not going to work, the blackmail is not going to work, which has been defined in Pakistan for years. So I think these are some areas which I feel have been the major takeaways for me from Operation Sindoor.
Thanks for that, Shalini. Let me get Ambassador Sikri to come in on what Dr. Shalini Chawla has just said, but add a question of my own. General Dua just said that even if there is a two-front conflict or a two-and-a-half-front war that the military has been wargaming for now for many years, Operation Sindoor has shown we can do it, and there's no doubt about that. But do you feel that this has taught us in a way that when it comes to Pakistan, there is still a kind of both-sidism? This is a point I made when I appeared on the Piers Morgan show, and I'll try and play out a clip on it later. A kind of both-sidism in the Western media, a kind of, this nuclear blackmail, nuclear overhang continues to sort of dominate the response of several Western governments. And when it comes to Pakistan, in some ways, we'll have to battle this alone. This is not to take away from our strategic heft, from our strategic influence, from how seriously India has taken, but it's been a little frustrating to see the Americans present this publicly as a sort of India and Pakistan are fighting. That equivalence is problematic. So I just wanted your thoughts on that. Can we unmute Ambassador Sikri, please?
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think, Barkha, that there is a certain attempt, or rather, let's say, it's being taken as that, as a re-hyphenation, because I think the whole issue of hyphenation had completely died down. And then now, this attempt, I think a part of it, I must say, is that for decades, ever since the Shimla agreement, on which I have many other things to say, but there's one thing I will say, that since the Shimla agreement, we were very careful to keep our part of it and only talk about it bilaterally, never raise it in international fora, never raise it, and said we will deal with it bilaterally, we will not ask anybody else. But Pakistan kept on and on and on. Through their efforts over these decades, they have ingrained this whole Kashmir issue into everybody's brief, as a talking point, briefs. This has to be talked about everywhere, every UN forum, every multilateral forum. Now, in the UN, only now in the last 10 years, we have started responding stronger and stronger and very, very unequivocally making our point that there's no way. But this wasn't the case earlier. So we have to continue these efforts now. We have to, I would say, build them up, make them stronger and stronger, and make it quite clear that the world knows that Kashmir is not an international issue. It is not even a bilateral issue. It is an Indian state. There's no question about it. If Pakistan wants to talk about something, they can only talk about returning POJK, which is under their occupation. And this is something that we have to now build up, this I think we already have been talking about it, but now seeing the way in which Pakistan tries to convince the thing, look at what they're doing with Turkey, for example, and
Yeah.
how Turkey sent 6 plane loads of these drones, and we saw swarms of them coming across into India. Of course, we were able to counter them very effectively, which is also, really demonstrated to the world our grip on this technology, the drones and the counter drone technology. So I think that that's just as well. But you have seen also the reaction to what Turkey has done within India. I mean, there's such a huge outpouring against Turkey. People don't want to go there. That Celebi Aviation has been taken
Yeah.
off the security clearance list. So I'm saying this is really a growing up, in the sense that previously this kind of unity of purpose, everybody coming together, all political parties, all communities, everybody, even in the mosque, they were saying, no, we must oppose this, we're not going to accept this kind of, this is remarkable, and we have to build upon this. And this show of unity within India is remarkable for the rest of the world as well. And this must be shown to them that this is what the whole of India wants.
Absolutely.
So this campaign is something which has to be built upon. And it combines, of course, very well with our internal strength and our internal made in India strength on and accuracy of our weapons. But this international campaign has to be built up, that there is no scope for this. And I think, a lot of it that, this wrong briefing of President Trump, the wrong notes were given to him, there's a lot yet of the old deep state. The Biden deep state is still very present in the Trump administration. I would say, in fact, that just 2 days ago, Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence, she made the first changes. I mean, the heads of the National Intelligence Council of USA, the number 1 and number 2 were changed. They were asked to go, and now new people are going to come in. So the reformation of the deep state is only now starting. And all these notes that were given to President Trump is very much the old deep state.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, but also the point about show of unity. General Dua, from the battlefield that psyops narrative matters almost as much as what you do, in the battlefield. One very interesting move is that the government is planning to send multi-party, cross-party delegations as needed to different parts of the world, to world capitals. But I want to actually change these pictures. In any case, they're too shaky right now to make out what's happening, and show you a picture of what Shehbaz Sharif tried to do. He tried to copy Prime Minister Modi. So after Prime Minister Modi went to the Adampur base and he met with troops, Shehbaz Sharif tried to do the same, but you could see that he wanted to avoid being caught at a damaged air base. So he stood in the middle of a Maidan. Right? He just stood in the middle of a random Maidan, and he stood on top of a tank which was covered with ghas. I mean, it was the most bizarre sort of thing. So I just wanted to show those pictures. But General Dua, talk a little bit about messaging, psyops, Pakistan's fake propaganda. Today, as we played a clip for you, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister actually read out a statement from a newspaper that didn't exist, from an article that didn't exist. So the importance of messaging right now, both within Kashmir, where you're seeing a very strong crackdown on terror hideouts, on sleeper cells, but also across the rest of India and to the world.
Barkha, I've always been saying that the battle for mind space is as important, if not more, as than the kinetic efforts that we have seen, or other the diplomatic dimension, the political and the economic decisions that we have already taken. So this is something that we must engage in with full vigor. Talking about Kashmir first. In Kashmir, we saw the Kashmiri people cutting across all divides have stood against the terrorist strikes in Pahalgam. And repeatedly we're getting those messages from, let me not name them, but people who were always giving statements against the state. So we must capitalize on that emotion, that sentiment in Kashmir, and we must build on it. So that's where this messaging comes in. Also, I would just add, as far as Kashmir is concerned, we must also show solidarity with Kashmiri people. And as a lot of drive is going on, tourists must start going back there so that people don't lose their livelihood, etc. Coming back to at the national scene. At the national scene, I think it is very important to engage with Pakistan. I don't hesitate in saying that Pakistan has mastered the art of manipulated narratives rather well. You see, it doesn't matter that we feel that ये सब बकवास है. I don't know what they keep saying. I had on Al Arabia channel, I had a 55 minutes face off with Fawad Chaudhry, former MP there, senator there.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed, and I posted that it is almost exhausting to see the kind of lies not only they peddle but what they believe in. I mean, I won't repeat what he said. They actually believe in all this. So we also need to mobilize our narratives well. To that extent, what has happened now? Trying to send, not trying, I mean, deciding to send teams across to different parts of the world to mobilize opinion, and sending people from other parties, people who are more articulate, can also make good statements. Shashi Tharoor, Owaisi, they have come out and spoken so much, so well during these last 2 weeks, and I think that's a very good thing. We've also heard otherwise. I mean, we heard Omar Abdullah speaking. So there are such voices coming out. I'm really glad. It also reminds us of how Mr. Vajpayee was sent during the Congress government to the UN. So this kind of messaging, it also shows, just like Veena said a little while earlier, it shows that our country stands united. And that strength is also there, is a great message in itself. So I think we are on the right path. All the decisions that have been taken in the last 3 weeks, I mean, you can't find a fault. It's playing out very well. The synergy between different dimensions, as was already brought out, and our messaging as going forward.
It's a very important point that you make about Pakistan being masters of deceit, masters of lies, especially on these global networks. And we can't just ignore it. We have to counter it. So I agree with you on that. Shalini, if I can bring you in just on defense spending. Something that Operation Sindoor tells us is that we've got to be modernizing. We've got to get more AI, more tech, high tech, and also be spending much more as a percentage of our GDP. Your take on that?
Yes, I mean, that remains always a debate, Barkha, that how much you can spend. And yes, we can maybe, increase the defense spending. But more than, talking about the increase, I think there are, General Dua is absolutely right that you can't find a fault with the operation. But there will be always areas where one learns the lessons and one can, maybe spend more. But yes, I think with some of our space capabilities for be more accurate, for example, you can be more precise. We were very precise, but what more can be done more on the air defense system? So yes, that part I agree that modernization should be prioritized and that needs to be kept up completely. But what I feel is definitely from our side, more focus is needed on the narrative building, the point that you were talking before this, because I think that is where I agree with General Dua that Pakistan, the whole national security narrative is a productive narrative, because what happens there is a unified command which directs it. It's military which directs it. So you have that narrative building that Pakistan is a victim of terrorism, Pakistan has been suffering the losses, and those narrative that has taken to kind of focus to build up its defense and also prioritize the defense over and above the economic and the social development in the country. And those narratives will continue. How can we kind of now counter it? I think this time it has been much better than what we have done in the past. There have been vacuums, and those were the areas, the space was created for Pakistan to build up that narrative more. For example, US announcing that it has led to that kind of, it has negotiated the ceasefire. That gave Pakistan space to project its victory, where the victory was not there. And mind you, General Dua, you will agree with me that victory narrative is all being driven on the basis of the first day when we hit the 9 terrorists. Nobody is talking about the other 3 days, what happened to that narrative. Obviously it has loose. Now we have some truth coming from, I just read Pakistan retired Air Force guy talking about the fact that yes, one of the AWACS was damaged. So the whole narrative of victory from Pakistan is coming on their claim that they have managed to destroy our aircraft. But beyond that, how can we now build up on that? So that I think narrative building exercise we need to be more quick in our responsive, and we need to be more aggressive to be able to build
Yes.
up international front.
I I would submit to all of you before I play a clip. I would submit to all of you that I think two things are not going to change despite the fabulous gains of Operation Sindoor. One is Pakistan's perfidy, and the second is the hypocrisy of Western media. And I encountered, Pakistan's perfidy firsthand when I faced off against former Pakistan Foreign Minister Hina Rabani Khar and General Dua, just like you, Fuad Chaudhry, and you're holding your head because we are used to at least debating on facts, right? We are not used to debating on lies. And I kept trying to ask this lady with great respect, can you please tell me, are the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists? I kept asking her this question. She wouldn't answer. She deflected. She whinged. She whined. Then she started attacking, personally criticizing or trying to criticize the Prime Minister. And this is what I said to her in response before she finally fled the show before answering the question. Take a look. Yeah, I'm going to ignore Shehzad's infantile comments and focus on what I want to say. It doesn't matter whether you in Pakistan like or don't. Can I speak, please? It doesn't matter whether you like or don't like Prime Minister Modi. He is an elected Prime Minister of India in his third term. Unlike the Prime Ministers of Pakistan who are appointed by the army, jailed or exiled. Your country is in turmoil because you have jailed Imran Khan. Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif, his brother, who's the present Prime Minister, is an appointee of the army. Before that,
Are we here
Nawaz
to listen
Sharif
to Barkha's version of Pakistan's internal politics? Is that the purpose of this?
You commented, ma'am, you commented on my country's internal politics. I am responding
I commented on the Gujarat.
I am responding
and I would be very
Let's talk about
humbled
Khaja
to
Asif.
be corrected on that.
There's your defense minister. You know what your defense minister said on television? Yes, we did support.
I told you, I'm not a journalist. I don't have
Ma'am, you're interrupting me. Ma'am, I did not interrupt you. Grant me the same civility. I did not interrupt.
Please go ahead.
Khwaja Asif, whose picture Ranveer held up, said in an interview to Sky News that indeed Pakistan had used terrorism as to do the dirty job. I guess Hina couldn't tolerate the truth. Maybe she just left. Khwaja Asif said on Sky News that Pakistan used to do the dirty job for other countries by using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Bilawal Bhutto said on the same channel, indeed, Pakistan has a past. Through this entire conversation, neither Pakistani has answered, are the Lashkar and the Jaish terror groups or not? And if they are, why are they allowed to function openly in Muriki and Bahawalpur when Indian action was taken against terror bases and terror bases alone? And a last point, Prime Minister Modi did try dialogue with Pakistan. He went to visit Nawaz Sharif in his home in Lahore. He invited Nawaz Sharif when he was sworn in as Prime Minister the first time. All of that came to naught because Pakistan's entire existence seems to be to conduct a proxy war against India. India would love to ignore Pakistan. India wants nothing Pakistan has. If Pakistan would stop inflicting terrorism on our country, we would be quite happy to never engage with them ever again. Now, this went on for 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, Ambassador Sikri, before she actually left, she would not commit to whether the Lashkar and the Jaish are terror groups. Now, if you are confronted with a country that doesn't admit that they are terror groups and this false narrative that Pakistan is a victim of terror, all right, Pakistan is a victim of some Pakistanis people. I would say Pakistan's people are a victim of some terror groups, but never the Lashkar and the Jaish. They have never conducted one terror strike within Pakistan. All of their terror strikes have been in India. Now, when we are confronted with this as a neighbor, where do we go from here?
You know, actually, these terrorist groups are proscribed by the UN. They're on the UN terror list, and now we're putting the resistance front, which had claimed the Pahalgam attack. Also, we are in the UN trying to put them on the terror list. So these efforts have to continue unequivocally, and you know we have to call out the somewhat hypocritical approach of many of the Western countries, where they talk about terror in the abstract, but when it comes to a specific instance, then they sort of hum and haw and So this is what I was saying that we have to call out. It's a very long drawn out campaign, and we have to do our own, presenting of evidence of what Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed and others are doing. And like the 14 crores being given to Masood Azhar, what for what? Because I mean, just look at it, and being given from the IMF tranche. So this is what has to go on, because this kind of dual approach cannot continue really, and it is harmful for the whole world. Today they are in India, tomorrow they'll be somewhere else. And we know that, leave alone every terror attack in the world, beginning with 9/11, all other major, they have a trail going straight back to Pakistan. So this has to be called out. And I think this whole business of saying, oh, we need Pakistan for Afghanistan, we need Pakistan for Iran, we need Pakistan for Central Asia, with this, that, and the other. I think the UK is at the heart of a lot of this campaign, because it is their, their RUSI and their other organizations who have built up this thing for the last 70 years, and they built up this indispensability of Pakistan for the West efforts in achieving their goals, whether it is against the Soviet Union earlier and now against all these other organizations. We just have to keep on calling it out. We have to keep on.
Absolutely.
Even at
it's
the
going to
rate
be.
of, yeah.
It's going to be a really long, drawn-out battle. It's frustrating at times, and it's actually, Shalini, staggering, considering, and this is a point I made on the same show, Daniel Pearl's abductor, Omar Saeed Sheikh, had to be released by India during IC 814 when Masood Azhar was released as well. He was acquitted by the Pakistan Supreme Court. 6 Americans were killed in the 26/11 attacks. As Ambassador Sikri said, every big terror attack in the world traces back to Pakistan in some way or the other, and yet the world carries on until it is directly impacted themselves. Shalini, last thoughts before I give General Dua the closing word?
Yeah, very quickly on this, on what you said, that every single terror attack traces its origin or link somewhere to Pakistan, and maybe that is what should make us feel that is why maybe Americans want to keep Pakistan warm, because they somewhere feel that they need Pakistan in their counter-terror operations. And we have seen in case of Zawahiri, we have seen in case of Sharifullah. So I think that is the balance US tries to kind of strike somewhere. This is certainly a factor, but very importantly, you raised a beautiful point saying that how do we deal with a nation like Pakistan. And I think for us, our focus needs to be to continuously building our capability to be able to increase the cost for Pakistan for its acts of terror. So how do we increase our deterrence, how do we increase our diplomacy, and how do we manage to increase that entire cost for its acts of terror needs to be our continuously be our focus, with the narrative build-up which needs to be really be aggressive.
General Dua, a closing question to you. Now that the Prime Minister has spelt out a new doctrine, which is that another terror attack will be treated as an act of war, somebody's phone is ringing. Yeah, I was saying, now that the Prime Minister has spelt out a new doctrine, what does it mean for the military? I think, to me, as I understand it, it means a heightened state of preparedness at all times for kinetic action. It's almost like being prepared for war constantly. That is the phase of national security we're entering. So just a closing word to you, because Pakistan's perfidy is not going to end. They are not going to go to war with us, but they can again try a terror attack.
Absolutely, Barkha. Actually, I will answer this question very easily in short, and I will also try to give you a couple of points about what I feel we should do going ahead. Right? As far as military is concerned, we are always prepared. When on 18th of September 2016, when late Mr. Parikar landed up in my office that very day, when we lost 18 soldiers, right then we could take a decision that we will do what we've never done before. So what I'm trying to get at, and in 10 days we launched what is now known as surgical strike. That is the first time we did this. So I'm trying to say military is always prepared. With this Operation Sindoor, we've gotten a lot of things right.
Yeah.
And like other co-panelists said, there are lessons that we would also learn from good operations, and I'm sure we will plug in those gaps. And military is now emboldened, like Binaji said, because there was great politico-military synergy. That is something that we are seeing, and visually also seeing that, and the kind of fact presentation was done. Allow me just a minute or two to say this. I think we also need to now, having taken such a bold step, we now need to think little differently. If you will get the TRF also recognized as a terror group, they'll raise another franchisee. So things like that will happen. We always say, you kill a few terrorists, more will replace them.
Yeah.
We've struck those headquarters. Pakistan has already announced they're going to rebuild those headquarters. That 14 crore given to for his next of kin, etc. All that will happen. So their support to terrorism will not stop.
Correct.
Who are their backers? Their backers are Pakistan military. How do we strike at Pakistan military? I'll take an absurd statement. Even if you kill a few generals, that doesn't stop the military. There'll be somebody else. So here is what I think we should do. Again, this is my view. One, we really have to hit them where it hurts them. We've already got them. We've already got them in the corner as far as Indus water treaty is concerned. We must create capacities to make it really hurt, rather than an erratic flow up and down, and small little things. The Sensex tumbled the moment we saw Chenab dry and people walking across it and things like that. Okay, so that's one part. We need to create more leverages like that. Second, I think we need to invest somehow. It'll be in our interest if Pakistan military is made unpopular amongst the people. It happened 2 years ago. Never ever has it happened that people thronged and broke the gates of a cantonment and ransacked the corps commander's house. It has happened. So we must use every trick in the book or out of it to somehow make that happen. And the third, which we have already started doing, is to mobilize world opinion. What Mr. Rajnath Singh said, start conversations all over the world. Is a rogue nation like Pakistan, can we trust them with nuclear weapons? What can we do about it? Let the world decide. But the point is, we need to apply even different kinds of pressure on Pakistan.
All right. 3 excellent points there. A lot to think about. Ambassador Sikri, General Dua, Dr. Shalini Chawla has always learnt a lot from all three of you. To our audience, we'll keep following the geopolitical, diplomatic, military ramifications of the highly successful Operation Sindoor that has made every Indian proud. We leave it there. Thank you so much. See you soon. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.